Happy Monday, everybody. A very happy Monday.
It sounds like it's lagging there, Jim, because I heard the music in the background again.
Happy Monday, everybody.
See?
Yeah, happy Monday again.
It sounds like it's lagging there, Jim, because I heard the music in the background again.
Yeah, okay, well. Okay, let's see that we're not.
Happy Monday, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, happy Monday again. Well, hey, everybody. Yeah, okay, well. Okay, let's see that we're not. Curious. This is. Hey, everybody. Yeah, okay, well. Okay, let's see that we're not. Okay, I think I figured out what the problem was. Let's try this. Hey, everybody. Do you like hearing us 2 or 3 times? I know I don't. Happy Monday. And no feedback now, so we're good. Did you have a nice weekend, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been nicer if the bullpen for the Cubs would have held on yesterday against the Brewers, but taking 2 out of 3 against Milwaukee isn't all bad. I mean, come on, Meatloaf wrote a whole song about it. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
No, it's not. And it's good to have.
My follow-up is going to be 3 out of 5 is okay.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Good plan. Good plan. It was a nice weekend, nice and quiet. Sometimes quiet is a good thing. And, we're welcoming a brand new advertiser for us. And let's welcome them because we're getting ready for baseball. And that's DraftKings. DraftKings has a brand new promotion for Max Wagers Network, winners and whiners, and of course, picks and parlays. And here's the deal, okay? Pretty simple. The deal is you bet $5 to win $200 in a free bet. Make your first deposit, bet $5 on any Major League Baseball money line, and win $200 in free bets. Now, the deal is you have to use our promo code. There it is. WNW, Winners and Whiners video. Get all the information in our show box below. Okay, cool enough. And as always, as we say, with you have to be 21 years of age and always bet responsibly. So, a very good deal from our good friends at DraftKings. So, DraftKings is giving us a promotion, and check it out in the show box below. And Chris, it's been a very weird weekend. I was involved watching the Nationals play this weekend against the Mets. And 2 things I came away with. The Mets are not as good as they looked, and the Nationals are not as bad as they looked, which is kind of what happens in the first few games of the regular season. Everybody's trying to find their footing, and it's one of those things where you don't panic after 4 or 5 games, but it's going to be an interesting thing. And the other thing is that because the schedule's set up, since we missed those 2 weeks of the season, which are being added on, so there's still 162 games, there aren't any days off for anybody for 2 weeks.
Yeah, there's very few off days right now. I know the Cubs don't play today. They play in Pittsburgh, I think, tomorrow.
Right.
The other thing I noticed this weekend is Toronto has to hope their pitching has been a lot better than what it was in the first 3 games. You look at the first 3 games of the season, their starters threw a total of 8 2/3 innings against the Rangers. Berrios was gone. He got 1 out on Friday to nothing or something like that after 2 innings before coming back to win. And then, Gausman gave him 5 innings on Saturday. And then Ryu struggled yesterday. He got knocked out in the 4th. That 6-1 lead Toronto had evaporated. They ended up losing 12-6. I don't think we can say Texas is that good offensively. I know adding Seager and Semien was going to help that lineup, but their pitching still isn't great. John Gray, he started Friday night. He's already on the injured list with a blister. They didn't know who was going to start yesterday until shortly before game time, and then they threw out, I think it was Spencer Patton. He wasn't all that great either. Now they're going to have, I think it's, who's it going to be today again? Taylor Hearn, who started 11 times last year on 42 starts. But I mean, some of these teams, obviously, we're seeing a lot of bullpen arms in the early going because nobody wants to throw their starters for long periods unless you're the Padres. But some of these pitchers are not that good, and it's a good thing there's expanded rosters at the moment because even the guys that they're bringing in that shouldn't be up are bad too.
The funny thing was, in the 4 games that the Nationals played against the Mets, the one game where they scored their most runs was against Max Scherzer. And I don't think anybody would have bet on that deal. They didn't win the game, but they scored their largest amount of runs against Mad Max, which just goes to show you, as I said, and you were talking about, early in the season, you just don't panic. You just kind of sit back and wonder, okay, it's going to be a long season. Let's just see if we can weather the next few weeks and get a feel for what it's going to be like.
Yeah, and figure out who's going to be pitching in half of these games because a lot of these teams don't have a clue. You see a lot of Washington. I guess what they finally settled on, Josh Rogers is going to pitch tonight.
Yeah, he's
it was supposed to be Anibal Sanchez, and then all of a sudden, he got hurt or something.
He has a blister.
Oh, he has a blister too.
Yeah, and that's it's kind of funny. Well, it's not funny if you got a blister, but the thing that I find interesting is the change when you come from Florida or Arizona, right, where the temperatures have been nice and warm, and the first thing you do when you start pitching is you get up here and you start. Temperatures are in the 40s and 30s, and sometimes pretty darn cold, and you're losing 40 degrees from the time it was 82 when you left Florida or Arizona, and you come up and all of a sudden your hands get a bit chapped, just like chapped skin. And I've had a number of scouts tell me that pitchers are very susceptible to cuts and blisters in the first couple of weeks of the season, simply because of the weather difference, and I think we see that. The other thing that they're not used to, and pitchers are very get into a rhythm, right? I mean, that's what they want to do is get into rhythm, and they can't get into rhythm when it's cold. They just can't. They seem to. There are some guys who can. There are some guys who can't. But for the most part, most pitchers take a little bit of time to get that. So cold weather, first couple of weeks of the season, I wouldn't. What do we take from it? I think we sit back and watch and take that. Okay, we're going to learn a lot about the teams during that time. Hitters the same way. Hitters.
Speaking of that, we've already found out that the Cardinals and Pirates are postponed today.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to alter a slide there. So.
Yep. It's
of course it's paid the Pirates Day, but postponed due to weather.
It's going to be one of those years when, it was cold in Pittsburgh. That game was supposed to be played in Pittsburgh or in St. Louis?
No, it was in St. Louis.
Okay, well, it's cold in St. Louis too. Evidently cold enough to keep them from playing. So they won't play today. And you said the Cubs and the Pirates play tomorrow.
Right. Okay. Another exciting, I'd like to know who comes up with these time starts. First pitch at PNC Park tomorrow, scheduled for 4:12.
4:12?
Yeah, you figure it out.
Not 4:10, not 4:15, but 4:12. Okay.
Yep. I guess because the White Sox and Mariners are going at 4:10, and so are the Guardians and the Reds.
You came close.
Yep. And then the Cubs and Pirates at 4:12. So
I don't know.
It's like all the games in Toronto. They start at 7:07 or something like that.
Yeah. It's it's funny. I will tell you why. In Toronto, you get a 4:07 start. They play 2 national anthems.
That's true.
So that's what happens. You get a later start. It should be it should be an 05, but it turns out to be an 07 because extra couple of minutes for the national anthem. All right. Well, I'll tell you
what. For the Pirates, are they going to recognize every fan that comes in? And is that why it's going to start at 4:12 instead
my
of 4:10?
guess is the same reason that Baltimore's got a wonky start today. And that is when you have opening day, you introduce both teams. You have all this other pomp and ceremony. And so it doesn't always get, the 05 starts don't always get to be 05. They get to be 07, 010, 12, 14, 17, whatever.
For the 17 people in attendance and the 25 people watching around the world.
I will tell you that opening day in Baltimore usually draws anywhere from 45 to 50,000, which is a full house at Camden Yard.
No, that's about Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pittsburgh, they'll draw 25, 30,000 there too. Opening day in Pittsburgh and Cleveland and in Baltimore, always good opening days. Next day, you might have 14 people there. But opening day, you definitely, as I think I told you.
Before we move into baseball, June, I just want to touch on a couple of things too. But no, go ahead and finish what you were saying.
No, I was just going to say that the first game I ever did as a director was Cleveland opening day. It was snowing sideways. And I didn't think that they would ever start the game. And they, not only did they start it, they finished it in a snowstorm against the Baltimore Orioles. And by the way, in that particular game, the broadcast crew for the Orioles was Jim Palmer and Brooks Robinson. And Brooks had leaned back and had his, press boxes are open for those of you who aren't aware. So the elements can come in. And it was pretty cold. So Brooks leaned back to get closer to the space heater and got his coat caught on fire. Fortunately, we had a very quick AD there who grabbed some water and tossed it on Brooks's coat so that he didn't catch fire. But a very cool day in Cleveland, opening day in the early 1980s, back in those days. Anyway, you were about to say.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to say, of course, our thoughts are with the family of Dwayne Haskins, who
absolutely
died tragically over the weekend. It's a sad story. I know that there'll probably be a lot of things that come out as to what was going on, but, it's too bad because he was going to get a chance to try to revitalize his career. And, obviously, he was a family man and everything like that. So just a weird story to hear on Saturday morning, for sure.
Yeah, it was. And from all indications, he was doing well with Mitch Trubisky and all the other guys who had assembled down there in South Florida, practice, Steeler quarterbacks practicing. And it is tragic. I mean, he was only 24 years old. He was going to be 25 in May. And, he had hoped to jumpstart his career in Pittsburgh. And Coach Tomlin, who is one of the best at taking players and bringing them around and getting the best out of them, was hopeful that maybe he could be a contributor to that team. And so, unfortunately, you're right of his passing. On the upside, congratulations to our Masters winner, who did a fantastic job in that.
Yeah, Scotty Scheffler pretty much led that wire to wire for the most part. I mean,
he did.
Did not lead to a ton of excitement as far as, unless you count Rory McIlroy's final round yesterday, but he was so far off the pace that he would have needed Scheffler to fade a little bit in the final round to make a race out of it. And, of course, the Lakers today fired Frank Vogel because, of course, it was his fault that crappy roster was 33-49. The Lakers played a lot better with all those guys on the bench in the last couple of games than they did most of the season.
Yeah, LeBron got his wish. It was bad situation, and now let's see who gets the job. That's not going to get that team's not getting younger.
Early speculation says they're going to try and go after Nick Nurse of the Raptors. I don't think he would want to take that job. He'll take one look at the roster and say,
we agree with you, Tim.
That's a hard pass.
Why would you leave Memphis?
No, he's in Toronto.
I'm sorry. I thought you said
Nick Nurse is in Toronto.
Okay. So why would you leave Toronto to go to Los Angeles? Now, okay. I love Toronto, great city. Love Los Angeles, great city. But in Toronto, you don't have the maniacs that you have in Los Angeles. I wouldn't take that job. I'm surprised, honestly, that there's 2 or 3. I thought they'd promote Rambus again and put him back there.
At least he has some ties to the franchise, and
Yeah, it's one of those things where, whoever it is, it's going to have to be whoever LeBron wants, and that's where they are at this point.
And the Kings will not bring back Alvin Gentry, who was the interim coach after Luke Walton got fired. Right. So apparently we'll have at least 2 teams in the Pacific Division looking for a new coach this season.
There's that's a very interesting situation, to say the least. Had a chance to watch Sean Higgs's show today at noon. Sean had a lot of good stuff going on there. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, by all means. Of course, Detroit Lenny was in the air chair today for the 1 o'clock show with Tim Earl bouncing in and back, and Tim was also on with Sean. So saw a lot of you today, Tim. It's always good to have you around. It's good to have you here. And,
but he hasn't bounced in here yet.
Yeah, today. Come on, bounce in anytime you want to. Great weather in the DMV. You're right, Lex. It's pretty nice out there today. So let's go to baseball. See what we got going on the boards today.
Yeah, of course. I had one of the games that was going on right now. The Guardians and the Royals tipped off. Well, shouldn't say tipped off. Threw first pitch a little bit ago. So far, the Royals have retired no one in the first inning. They gave up a leadoff double or an infield single to Miles Straw, then back-to-back walks. So the Guardians have the bases loaded with nobody out in the top of the first there. Of course, for those of you that are fans of the Guardians, A, I feel bad for you. B, they scored 1 run in the first 19 innings this season and then put up 6 in the first inning yesterday en route to a 17-3 win at Kauffman Stadium. So
they got that field goal in at the end, huh? That was good. Okay.
But yeah, today we'll talk about the Brewers and the Orioles. I know everybody excited about this matchup of interleague play from teams that both used to call the American League home. Personally, I wish Milwaukee was still there because I don't understand what the point of bringing them over was in the first place. I know they wanted to even out the leagues, but we had Houston in the National League Central at one point. So, but the Brewers 1-2, they beat the Cubs yesterday.
Well, the Reds and the Braves used to be in the National League West.
That's true.
So, go figure that.
But yeah, the Brewers 1-2. They beat the Cubs yesterday 5-4, rallying from a 3-0 first inning deficit. And their pitching did not look good in that series either. Burns struggled. Woodruff got shelled, and then Peralta was struggled out of the gates as well. Meanwhile, Baltimore was 0-3. We saw them get swept by Tampa Bay over the weekend. The Bats not doing a whole lot for the Orioles so far this season. They come in with a collective average of 0.57. It's probably not that low, but they didn't do anything to inspire confidence when you get right down to it. They scored 4 runs in the 3 games in the series. Apparently Baltimore hitting .212, but if you throw out Ryan Mountcastle's .417 average and Anthony Santander .375,
you might be at that 0.55 that you mentioned.
Then you drop down to Trey Mancini at .273. Austin Hayes is hitting $1. Cedric Mullins is hitting $1.82. For some reason, Robinson Chirinos is their starting catcher at age 38. He's hitting .143. Odwar is hitting .111. So, yeah, let's face it, Baltimore's pitching isn't all that great. I mean, they started John Means Friday. Then they went to Jordan Lyles, everybody's favorite journeyman, Saturday. And yesterday was Tyler Wells. Jim, what can you tell us about Tyler Wells?
He throws. I don't know much about Tyler Wells. I know Bruce Zimmerman was one of the guys that they thought was going to be helpful to the team. It's funny. That series between the Rays and the Orioles, The Rays now have played the Orioles 23 games, and they've won 22.
Well, everybody in the AL East treats Baltimore like to quote Gene Smith again, the little sisters of the poor.
Yeah, I was going to say that, we used to say that, it was everybody's homecoming team, right? You always want to play somebody you're going to beat when they're playing homecoming. The Orioles, if you look at it, it's quite possibly the Orioles, frankly, were the team that were the reason the Rays were able to win the East. Because if you look how that things pared down, they won 18 out of 19 games against the Orioles, which is, you're going to load up on somebody. That's it. And so the Brewers and the Orioles today at Camden Yard, it's a brisk 50 degrees outside. It's sunny. And they shouldn't have any trouble getting the game in. That's the good news. There'll be about 45,000 fans in the ballpark. That's good news. But you got two teams that have yet to find their footing. So we'll see.
But is it windy in Baltimore?
It's kind of windy, but not that windy.
Well, I see what Brad's saying about some under predictions for Baltimore and Milwaukee. The weird thing is Baltimore went under in all three of their games this weekend with Tampa Bay, but that's mainly because they didn't score any runs. You look at the numbers there in the series against the Rays, they lost 2-1. So that was only a combined 3 against 7.5. And then the last two games were 5-3 and 8-0. So those were two games with totals of 8 against an 8.5 number. The number today is 9, which, seems a little high with the Orioles unless you're counting on Milwaukee to put up a bunch of runs. Of course, the Brewers were 2-0-1 to the over in their series against the Cubs, though they didn't generate a ton of offense in the middle game of the series. They lost 5-4 in the opener. That game was a push on the total. Then they lost 9-0, and then they won yesterday 5-4. I was surprised the total only was 7.5 yesterday because it seemed like the wind was blowing out at Wrigley, which usually bumps the total up considerably. Jim, what do you make of the total? Do you think it's too high? Do you think it's too low?
I think it's too high, personally. I mean, the Orioles pitching isn't that great, but the Brewers have not been hitting, and that's a little surprising. I would have thought the Brewers would have been able to hit better than they have, but they just aren't. And that's a team. You got some pretty decent hitters, Christian Yelich, guys like that. I mean, you would think they could hit, but unfortunately, not so much. So no, I wouldn't. Did you say it was 8 or 9?
No, the total's 9.
9. That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the Brewers, like I said, they had 9 in all 3 games against the Cubs, but they only scored 9 of those 27 runs in the series.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point about them not hitting, they batted a collective 207 in the series against Chicago. And let's face it, as much as I'm a Cubs fan, Kyle Hendricks, Justin Steele, and Marcus Stroman are not Nolan Ryan, Randy Johnson, and Roger Clemens in their prime by any stretch.
True, but to your point, the Brewers. The Brewers coming into the season, everybody was talking and raving about their pitching.
Yeah. And they, like I said, they struggled. Burns, he went 5 innings, gave up 3 runs on 4 hits, walked 3. Peralta went 4 innings yesterday, walked 4, fanned 6. Woodruff got chased after 3 2/3. He gave up 7 runs on 6 hits Saturday. They finally got to go to Hader and Williams yesterday, which helped them preserve the win. But some of the other guys were not all that good. No,
not at all. Okay, so the Brew Crew and the Orioles today. It's the game for the Brew Crew, and not loving the over in this game.
Yeah, I think that unless Baltimore can hit better at home than they did at the Trop, it's I can see this one falling short of the total too. I just don't know if Milwaukee can generate enough runs, even as bad as Zimmerman was last season.
Mm-hmm.
Neither one of these teams is hitting well. Like I said, Baltimore's hitting 212. Milwaukee hit 207 the first weekend of the season.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, moving on to, speaking of the Rays. Now, at the beginning of the season or at the end of last season, you would have said, the Rays and the A's, this is a a battle of two playoff contending teams until, as you said, the Oakland A's traded everybody but the soda machine, and probably because it was owned by the city of Oakland, it stayed there. So the Rays are at home at the Trop, and the Rays are visiting, and doesn't look good for them at this point.
Yeah, I mean, give credit to Oakland yesterday. They beat the Phillies to avoid getting swept. Though some of that seemed like Philadelphia just couldn't get a key hit. They couldn't buy one when they needed it. I think at one point they had, 2 hits in the game? I don't know if they finished with any more than that. But it was a disappointing offensive performance for the Phillies, which was, well, let's face it, it was disturbing.
Yeah. What do you think of Michael's thoughts?
Yeah, well, we just said Milwaukee. I could see that. I actually had to plug the Phillies into one of the slides because the Cardinals game was wiped out. And Tampa Bay, they play well at home.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are all good options. Like we just talked about Milwaukee. We're talking about Tampa Bay here. And the Phillies, like you said, they're playing the Mets, and the Mets didn't overwhelm anyone either. Yeah, Philadelphia had 3 hits yesterday, and they scored their lone run in the 9th inning off the bullpen. That was a disappointing performance. So Oakland actually got a win. Congratulations to them. Tony Kemp, 3 hits. Not going to say that's going to happen on a regular basis. Not going to say Tony Kemp's going to be in the lineup on a regular basis either. Blackburn 1-4. ERA was ugly, 5.87, 1.617 WHIP over 38 and 3rd innings and 9 starts last year. Luis Patino, who they got from the Padres, he was decent last year once he came over, 5-3, 4.31 ERA, 1.267 WHIP over 77 and a third, in 19 appearances, 15 starts. The A's were tied for 10th in runs last season per game at 4.59. These numbers I'll update once we actually get a few games in the books. I'm not going to talk about 3 games worth of work so far. They were dismal on the road, and now they don't have, well, let's see. They don't have Matt Olson. They don't have Matt Chapman. They traded a whole bunch of other guys. So it's going to be a lot different lineup than what we're used to seeing in Oakland. It's kind of like in Major League when they're talking about all the guys that made the team, and they're like, who the hell are these guys? Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just going to say it's one of those games where you really do have to buy programs to know who the Athletics have on their roster.
Yeah, basically. I mean, Tampa Bay 2nd in runs per game last year at 5.28. They're 8th at home. Tampa Bay 6-0 in their last 6 when their opponent allows 2 or less in their last game. They're 72-22 in their last 94 at home against a right-handed starter. They're 42-14 in their last 56 as a home favorite. Oakland 2-9 in their last 11 as a road underdog. 1-6 in their last 7 against a right-handed starter. And 1-6 in their last 7 on the road against a right-handed starter. So things not looking promising for the A's here. It'll be interesting to see if there's anybody else they can possibly trade. I know Frankie Montas is still on the team. They haven't dealt him yet. I thought he might get traded before he started Friday, but that wasn't the case. So it'll be a tough start for the A's. Hopefully, they'll get to go home before nobody decides to turn out because, they won't be home for another week. They have to go to Toronto after this 4-game set with Tampa Bay. So hopefully they'll have fans by the time they get back.
Yeah, they have to get back to the Oakland Mausoleum out there. That's a massive, big building that shouldn't. Hopefully, they'll find themselves a new stadium sometime soon because that place out there is not fun to go to. It's any place that the center field is known as Mount Davis. You're in trouble because he's passed away and the team is the Raiders have moved. So there you go. Oakland, not a good night in St. Petersburg. So next up on our hit parade here, no pun intended, the Rockies and the Rangers.
Yeah, normally if you were looking for runs, this would be the place to go.
You would think.
Even though both teams struggled last season, Colorado was 29th in runs per game on the road at 354. The Rangers were 28th in runs per game overall at 386 and 28th in runs per game at home with 395, which is weird because I thought Globe Life Field was supposed to be a hitter's ballpark, unless it was a hitter's ballpark for anybody not wearing a Rangers uniform. You look at the pitching matchup, Austin Gomber 9-9 with a 4.23 earned run average, a 1.24 WHIP over 115 and a third innings and 23 starts. Well, the Rangers will counter with Taylor Hearn 6-6 with a 4.66 earned run average, a 1.323 WHIP over 104 and a third innings and 42 appearances, 11 starts. Let's be honest, the Rangers put up some runs over the weekend against Toronto. Mm-hmm. Put up 8 in the opener and lost. And they put up 2 in the middle game, and they scored 12 yesterday. So a good offensive showing for them, 22 runs in 3 games. Of course, they gave up 20. So just shows you where they are pitching-wise. Meanwhile, look at the Rockies. They won 2 of 3 from the big bad Dodgers. They jumped all over Julio Urias yesterday en route to a victory. Though that was partially helped by the fact that the Dodgers kept hitting into double plays early because they had, 7 hits in the first 3 innings and didn't score.
Right, didn't score anybody. Yeah.
So Senzatella ended up giving up 9 hits and 3 1/3, gave up 4 runs. Only one of those was earned due to a 3-run error by Chris Bryant out in left field. But let's face it, it wouldn't surprise me if this game ended up going over because the weather in Texas is probably a lot more favorable than it is at Coors Field. Just see what the weather is out there in Arlington today.
So where are they playing?
Yeah, it's going to be in Arlington at Globe Life Park. Yeah, it's a balmy 84 degrees.
Okay.
In Arlington and sunny.
I apologize because the top line says that the Rockies are 2-1 at home this season. The Rangers are 1-2.
That was I meant to punch in that they were supposed to be 0-0 on the road, but I was just trying to. That's
okay, no problem. That was, sorry, they're playing the game in Texas.
Yep. The Rockies. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say the Rangers spent a lot of money on that on retooling the bats in the offseason. Perhaps some of that money should have gone to pitching. Yeah,
they Gray, and of course, like I said, he's back on the shelf already with a blister. Like you said, that weather change can wreak havoc on you. But they don't really have a ton of arms to rely on, which is dangerous. I know they signed Martin Perez. I'm surprised he hasn't gotten a start yet. I thought he was going to start yesterday, and then they decided not to put him in the lineup. I'm just going to take a quick look at who else they might have in the rotation right now. Because obviously it's not going to be anyone of name value.
No.
Which I guess is the Rangers' MO. You look, they're supposed to start Spencer Howard tomorrow, which good luck with that. He hasn't been all that great in his major league career. That doesn't make sense because he started yesterday, so I can't see him starting again today or tomorrow.
No, that's a little too short rest.
Yeah, and you look at the other guys, they've already used 12 pitchers. Of those 12, 8 of them have given up a run. So that just goes to show you what
they're consistent.
What a rough staff it is for the Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I think it's going to come down to Colorado gets a chance to break out the bats in some friendlier weather. And they're not playing in a cavern like AT&T Park or Petco or any place like that. So maybe they can actually put up some runs on the road.
Well, it's the time of year, where the humidity is not quite there yet in Texas. So that 84 degrees with a lighter humidity means the ball's going to travel. And so there could be a lot of fireworks going on. The over in that game might be a good thing to look at. I don't know what the over is, but
10.
10? Well, that might be possible. That definitely might be possible.
Yeah,
Given what given what the Rangers did over the weekend.
Yeah, and with shaky pitching too.
Yeah, on both sides.
True.
So, it's not like you got one, you got them both. Before we move on, and we will, let's talk about the Caesars Sportsbook. $1,100 first bet insurance. Place a first-time wager of up to $1,100 and get it back in the form of a bet if you lose. That's right. Think about this. You can bet anything from $10 to $100 to $1,100 on your first bet, and if you lose, they're going to give it back to you and give you a second shot. How many times do you get a second shot? Well, our friends at Caesars are giving it to you. But here's the cool part to it. You have to use our promo code. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So there you go. So as you can see, the promo code is right there. Click it in the link in the show box below, because that's where all the action is going on. Also down there, a couple of other things to keep a lookout for. One, we're still giving away that free book. That's right. 100 pages of how to bet baseball. Everybody loves it. Everybody I know that has gotten a copy of it enjoys it. Even some pros like it. Steve Kinsella, who covers the Rays. Our buddy Pete Medhurst, who was Nationals Park, who spent seemingly 3.5 days there, 2 days in a row. So much so that they had to bring in a relief guy for him on Sunday because he had been so burned out. Pete loves it, and so everybody loves it. So if you haven't gotten a chance to get a copy of it, it's in the show box below. And also, if you want to get Chris King, the man, the legend, you want to get his parlays sent directly to your email box, all that information is in the show box below. So not only is the cool thing about the free book, the parlays, but the two promotions going on we have with DraftKings and with Caesars, everything below in the show box. Okay, cool. All right, so now I guess we're going to the ice. Is that where we're going, Chris?
Yeah, for the exciting one NHL game on the books tonight, because that was some great scheduling by Gary Bettman and company. Put up one game on a Monday in mid-April, and it's the Winnipeg Jets. I know Sly is happy. They get to go to the Bell Center to take on the Montreal Canadiens. Jets 28-9. Actually, I think I did not get a chance to update that. Let me double-check and see what their record is. I went through and I was trying to update. No, the Jets are 34-28-11, 15-13-8. That's the problem when I was trying to update on the fly. The Canadiens 20-41-11. They're 10-20-4 at home. Nobody likes them. It'll be Eric Comrie, who's 8-3-1 with a 268 goals against and a 912 save percentage, starting for the Jets. Samuel Montembeault, 7-14-6 with a 361 goals against an 896 save percentage and one shutout for Montreal. He started because Jake Allen got hurt the other night against Toronto in the first period. So Montembeault had to come in there, and Carey Price, of course, hasn't played in an eternity. Mark Sheffley is out, apparently, for Winnipeg tonight with an upper body injury. Blake Wheeler is questionable for the Jets. Meanwhile, for Montreal, Nick Suzuki, questionable with an undisclosed injury. You got to love those this time of year.
Yeah.
He's hurt. I'm just not going to tell you what it is. The Jets are 16th in goals for at 307. They're 19th in goals against at 3.10. The Canadiens 29th in goals for at 2.6. 31st in goals against at 379. The Jets 4-0 in their last four as a road favorite. 4-1 in their last five in the third game of a 3-game and 4-night situation. Remember, they're coming off a 4-3 victory on the road.
Right.
Last night. They're 4-1 in their last five on the road. Montreal, let's face it, they're terrible. They're 21-50-56 in their last 77. They're 7-19 in their last 26 as a home underdog. They're 17-48 in their last 65 as an underdog overall. The Jets pretty much faded out of playoff contention, much to the chagrin of Sly and the rest of Manitoba, with the way they struggled last week against teams like Ottawa and Detroit. They currently stand what is it, 7 points back, I believe it is.
Yeah, it's about that.
Yeah, 7 back of the Stars with about 9 games to play. So it's going to be a tough sledding. They've also got to jump over Vancouver and Vegas just to get to Dallas. And then Nashville has 87 as the second wild card in the West. So it's going to be tough sledding, but if they can get 2 points here, hey, put you on the right path.
Yeah, get you there, get you at least moving.
Yeah, look for them to win here.
Super Sly says it's at least it's a short trip to Montreal. Quick question here for our buddy Ninja. Is that, I assume he's talking about the Rays, right? I mean,
yeah,
the Lightning don't play.
There is no Lightning game. So over 4.5. Well, I mean, they scored. They averaged 5 runs in the series against Baltimore. You throw out that first game when they struggled, when they only won 2-1. Then they put up 5 Saturday, 8 on Sunday. And Oakland, Oakland was susceptible to giving up runs against Philadelphia in the first 2 games of that series. Because you look at what the A's did, let's take a quick look here. They gave up 14 runs in the set, and 13 of those came in the first 2 games. So it's hard to gauge what you're going to get out of Blackburn. He didn't go deep in games last season. He probably won't go deep in this one either. And the A's bullpen leaves plenty to be desired. I mean, you look at these guys. Outside of Lou Trevino, most of the guys are guys that nobody's paid attention to, because who's heard of Kirby Snead and Domingo Acevedo and Zach Jackson, Jacob Lemoyne, AJ Puck, Sam Bull, and Danny Jimenez. Those are the other relievers that have thrown for the A's this season. Outside of their families, most people don't know who those guys are because they haven't pitched at the major league level with any kind of consistency. I can see the Rays probably getting to 5. I don't know if I would count on them for a whole lot more than that because they won't necessarily need it. I look for this one, that game overall, to stay under the total. I think it's at 8.5. And if you look at recent matchups between those teams, even when the A's were, decent, I think it's the last 7 meetings between the teams at Tampa Bay have stayed under the mark. And 7 of the last 8 overall. So don't expect a lot of offense.
No, I mean, it's one of those. We talked about Tampa Bay scoring a lot of runs last year. They got that 2-1 win on opening day. They, what was it, 5? Yeah, 5-3 on 5-3 on Saturday, and then 8-0 yesterday. A lot of that had to do with the Orioles being just horrifically poor in the field.
Well, there's that too.
So, at least I'm guessing that the gang over at Oakland can play a little D, and so they're not going to, throw the ball all over the ballpark, which
is too bad.
Yeah. So,
but on the flip side, the A's can't hit because they hit 202 against the Phillies in 99 at bats. They drew 4 walks and struck out 31 times.
I will tell you that ballpark in Philadelphia, which is affectionately known as the Bank, Citizens Bank Park, is a bandbox. So usually you're seeing balls bouncing off of everything there. And they weren't able to get anything going on. Playing at the Trop, it's not
a bandbox.
It's also a bandbox, but it's you're not going to get any wind at the Trop. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. This for sure, definitely. So, all right, let's go for 2 for the show, or 2 for the money. I'm sorry. Speaking of money, and away we go.
The Brewers over the Orioles. We talked about the Jets over Montreal just a minute ago, and Tampa Bay over Oakland. This bottom spot, I originally had St. Louis over Pittsburgh, but of course that game was postponed, so we had to go and adjust on the fly. I'm going to go with the Phillies at home over the Mets. You look at it, Philadelphia is a better team than what we saw yesterday, where, like I said, they finished with 3 hits. The Mets, sure, they're 3-1, but they didn't look overwhelming in most of those games. I mean, they won, what was it, 5-1 in the opener, then 7-3, then 5-zip behind Chris Bassett on Saturday, and then they lost yesterday 4-2 when they melted down. Gave up, 3 in the eighth, I think?
Yeah. I will say this, as I said before, watching the Mets, I wasn't overly impressed with them, and it was one of those games where you said to yourself, okay, the Nationals helped them win. That's not good. They need to tighten up here and there. I'm going to stand by it. I still think the Phillies are the best team in the division, with a close, Atlanta and the Mets playing close for possible wild card position there. But I don't know. I'm not buying the Mets yet. We'll see.
And it's going to be Taijuan Walker going for the Mets against Ranger Suarez, who, in case you don't know who he is, put in a pretty good numbers last year. He made 39 appearances, 12 starts. He was 8-5 with 4 saves, a 136 earned run average,
okay,
33 walks, and 107 strikeouts over 106 innings of work. If you look at some other numbers here about the situation, the Mets are 0-8 in Walker's last 8 starts against teams with a winning record. And for some reason, they don't win games when Walker's pitching on grass. They're 1-11 in his last 12 starts on the natural grass, as opposed to, there's not a lot of places where you play that's turf anymore. So it makes you wonder, what's going on. The Mets also 6-28 in their last 34 against teams with a winning record. Good chance for the Phillies to take advantage of the fact that they're at home. Of course, they got that retooled lineup with Schwarber and Castellanos helping out Bryce Harper and company. So a lot of pop in that lineup, which helps in that bandbox, like Jim said, of Citizens Bank Park. I'm going to take the Phillies over the Mets because, like Jim said, the Phillies have to prove that they can actually play decent baseball.
It's be a good time to find out. So, all right, let's go from, and the Phillies one of the things I can tell you about the I-95 corridor here, you Phillies, you got the Broad Street Brigade, and those are people that travel to Washington and to New York to wreak havoc as Philly fans. You've got the New York is the seven train army, which of course the 7 train is the train you take from Manhattan out to Shea, and then the Washington. Now. I'm sorry.
City Field now.
City Field. Did I say Shea? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. City Field, and out to the tennis center, and then the Nationals have the K Street Lobby, which is a fun name, and they travel to Philadelphia and New York. So the three teams are within a 3-hour train ride of each other, and they so when they get together, they travel and they cause grief. So Phillies and the Mets, there'll be plenty of people from the Mets side and plenty of people from Philadelphia grousing at each other today. So that'll be fun to do.
Have you ever taken the Metro liner up to DC or up to New York, Jim?
The Acela?
Yeah.
Yeah. A number of times. You stop off, you can take it direct, but there's a train that leaves DC for New York every hour on the hour from 5 a.m. until 1 a.m. So you can pretty much get to Philly, and it stops. Most of them stop in Philadelphia on the way up at 30th Street Station there, and so you can get to Philadelphia in a pretty good short time. Saying hello. There's Kevin. Good to see you, buddy. Here's Zach. Zach's got a question for you here.
Well, you gotta, when you figure that, there's not a ton of games to work with today, so we had to kind of mix it in there. And there's no NBA games tonight, of course. They start tomorrow. So I like Winnipeg over Montreal. Basically Montreal is the hockey version of the Lakers, where you fade them at every opportunity. So that's why I put Winnipeg in here. Like I said, I originally had the Cardinals up in this block, but of course then they got rained out, so kind of took another option off the table.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a limited amount of what you can do, right? And
yeah, not a whole lot of choice to work with today.
And we try to stay away from doing player props because if you're into player props, that's something that our buddy
Reichel likes to do that. He was complaining
Sean
yesterday
Higgs
that
likes to do it. Reichel likes to do it. So there's plenty of opportunity to see that on the network here. And
Reichel was complaining yesterday that he blew another parlay because Luka Doncic got hurt and he didn't get a triple double. I told him to leave the parlays to the experts.
There you go. That's why they call the show Just Parlays. And speaking of that, let's go for 4 for the show.
All right. Now, take note, the Guardians game already started. I did this obviously earlier this morning. In case you're wondering, the Guardians actually have a 2-0 lead in the bottom of the second. They scored twice in the first. Meanwhile, the Royals left the bases loaded in the bottom of the first. So, tough break for them. But I picked Cleveland because I liked Aaron Savali over Carlos Hernandez on the mound anyway. I'm going to take the Rockies over the Rangers. I know Texas scored a bunch of runs over Toronto. I don't know if they're going to continue that here. They could, but they could also give up a whole bunch more runs too. So it's tough to have faith in a Rangers team that has no pitching to speak of. At least the Rockies have some guys that can get outs, and they beat the Dodgers 2 out of 3. The Braves over the Nationals. We talked about how Washington is going to with Josh Rogers over Anibal Sanchez. Huascar Yanoa is on the mound for the Braves. Atlanta's got to look better than they did over the weekend with the Reds. And I'm going to take the Mariners over the Twins. I know that it's Dylan Bundy going from Minnesota against Chris Flexen for the Mariners. I'm just not convinced that Bundy's a quality major league pitcher at this point in his career. He's struggled the last few years. He's bounced around from Baltimore to the Angels. Now he's with the Twins. Pretty soon he'll be pitching for the St. Paul Saints of the Independent League or somewhere else. Maybe he'll have some success in the Atlantic League. But I'm not convinced he can do anything right at this point as far as getting major league hitters out.
I think if you look at Dylan Bundy, Dylan Bundy is a guy who is going to be a career, probably eventually, middle relief guy. Comes in the second, third or fourth inning, gives you extra innings, that kind of guy. His starting pitching days, he's been given ample opportunity in Baltimore. He was given ample opportunity in Anaheim to make it, and it hasn't happened for him yet. We'll see how it goes in Minnesota, but the Mariners are a team that a lot of people think have a good shot at winning in the West, and legit shot at being a playoff team. Minnesota,
provided Jerry DiPoto doesn't try to trade everybody.
Well, they signed a lot of people, so let's hope he doesn't trade everybody at the trade deadline.
I mean, that's what he seems to do. He likes to trade people. That's why I call him Trader Jerry up there.
Yeah.
I imagine it's got to drive Dave Sims crazy. I know it's drive Rick Riz nuts with all the moves that they would make all the time.
And they did
make up your damn mind who you're going to have on the team.
It does. It also drives the fans crazy because just when they think they're going to have a team to root for, they get up and have to wonder where all these guys went. So
right.
It does make a problem. But tonight the Mariners benefit by Dylan Bundy is pitching kind of like Al Bundy did when he was on Married with Children.
Hey, but Al Bundy scored 4 touchdowns in a single game. Damn it!
I'll tell you, I did meet. When I was with Fox, we had Ed. Oh my
Ed O'Neill.
Ed O'Neill. We had Ed O'Neill. Ed O'Neill's from Youngstown, and so we had Ed O'Neill come to It was a contest where it was bowl with Ed. And besides being an incredibly nice man, he also is a pretty darn good bowler. So he may not be pitching like Dylan Bundy, but he can bowl. So we know that about Ed O'Neill. So there's that. So Ed O'Neill, good bowler. All right, time to go for the whole enchilada here.
Yeah, we had a good menu on Friday. 9 out of 10 of them hit outside of the freaking Wizards, who apparently forgot that there was a basketball game.
I can't help you on that one, buddy.
Yeah, they got pasted by the Knicks. That was a disappointing performance. But they were the only dud. They were the only water chestnut in the Mugu Guy Pan of the Shot in the Dark segment Friday. So
pay attention, children.
Yeah, this one I had to improvise a bit because, like we said, there's so little stuff to work with today. I'm going to look for the Rockies and the Rangers to be scoreless after 1, which is strange considering we talked about how we expect a bunch of runs in those games. They'll probably just come, a little bit later in the contest. Same with the Marlins and the Angels. I can't trust the Marlins to score any runs anyway. And the Angels, I know they've got some bats, but I'm not convinced they'll score early either. Eliezer Hernandez going against, who are the Angels throwing again? Oh, that's right, Michael Lorenzen, formerly of the Diamondbacks and the Reds. Good pinch hitter as a pitcher, but, not going to help put runs on the board in the first.
No.
Speaking of teams going over numbers, I'm looking for the Blue Jays and the Yankees to go over 9. I know the Yankees were 2-1 over the weekend. They went over in the first game with Boston, then they stayed under in the next 2. We talked about Toronto's pitching issues in the series with the Rangers, but I look for this one to end up over the number. That short porch in right field's got to look awful inviting to all the power hitters that Toronto has in their lineup. And, you got Rizzo and Stanton and those guys for the Yankees that can pop the ball over the wall in a hurry, too. I look for Boston to be ahead over Detroit in the opening 5 innings of this game tonight. Michael Wacha versus Detroit's throwing. Who was it? Was it Matt Manning? Where'd he go? Yeah, Matt Manning.
Another thing on that Marlins-Angels game, the Marlins had to fly across country yesterday.
Yeah, that's true, too. So they'll be even less inclined to score early. But it'll be Matt Manning and Michael Wacha in the Red Sox-Tigers game, not Peyton Manning, not Eli Manning, not Cooper Manning, not Arch Manning, or Archie Manning for that matter.
Right.
Or Danny Manning, in case you were wondering.
Right.
I look for the Giants to beat the Padres tonight. Last I knew, the pitching matchup was Nick Martinez, who's back from Japan after spending the first part of his career with the Rangers, against Alex Wood for the Giants. I know the Padres won 3 out of 4 from the Diamondbacks, but come on, they beat the Diamondbacks. Big deal. Did they change the total on the Yankees game since this morning? Oh, well, it was 9.5 or when it opened, so it's 9 now. Yeah, I see. It's the under still minus 115. So yeah, I see what JP's talking about. I just think that with all the bats in those lineups, and both teams had to tank their bullpens in the first 3 games of the season.
Mm-hmm.
You have to wonder who's going to pitch and get outs. Then the last 4 are about the one hockey game. Shows how exciting it is when there's only one game to talk about. I look for the Jets to be ahead after the first period. I also expect them to win in regulation. I expect Pierre-Luc Dubois to have over 3.5 shots. He's racked up, I think, more than 3.5, and I think it's like 6 of his last 7 games or something. And I look for the Jets in Montreal to say under 6.5. I just can't trust the Canadians to score any goals. And with the Jets being tired, they might be content to play a 3-2 type of game or a 4-2 type of game, with a late empty netter, as opposed to a 6-5 type of game.
There you go. Well, any final questions here on a Monday?
No, it looks pretty quiet.
Yeah. Well, a quick shout out to Tiger Woods, who came through. James, good to see you there, buddy. As we say right there, hit the button, subscribe, hit the bell, all notifications of the show. so you can find out that we're going to be here every day at 2 o'clock. But the shout out to Tiger was, I didn't think that he was going to make the cut, and clearly he proved me wrong there. He had a tough second and third day, and a tough day yesterday as well. But the fact that he could go out and play relatively competitive golf was a story into itself. So good on him for that. And we should have some good games. And tomorrow, don't think we're not looking at the NBA, but tomorrow the NBA starts its playoffs in earnest. And there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with these playing games, Chris. And we have a lot to talk about tomorrow about that. James says props the Woods. And absolutely, the Yankees. What do we got here on Yankees? You've been hitting market money. Market move is funny. I don't care. Okay.
Yeah, he's talking about how the line moved down from 9.5 to 9.
It's got wonky here for the past couple. And thank you, Kevin, for the great information part of it all. All right, gang. Well, tomorrow we'll be talking Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, because there's going to be more than one game.
Thank God.
Plenty of good stuff on 2 for the money, 4 for the show, and of course, as Chris said, 9 out of 10 hit on Fridays. Big board, and we're still waiting for you guys. Come on now, if you cash some tickets, take a picture, send them to Chris at Bet Royalty. That's right, Betting Royalty on Twitter, and we'll see what we can do to get you some some merch. And Kevin's going to go Brooklyn. Brooklyn's not a bad bet, that's for sure. They playing pretty good. So we shall see what we shall see tomorrow anyway, everybody. Any final thoughts, Chris, before we get out here on a Monday?
No, don't forget the USFL is coming. I know everybody's really excited about that. That'll start this weekend. And, they've got some interesting stuff. I saw they've got a chip in the ball, so it'll help make for more accurate measurements and things like that. So that'll be interesting to see how that all unfolds. And from what I've read, the Tampa Bay Bandits are considered the favorite as far as winning the title in the early going of betting.
Well, I told you I will wear my Bandit sweater given to me by Burt Reynolds on Friday when we start talking about the USFL. So I will wear that sweater. It may be threadbare for sure, but it'll be there. It'll be entertaining. It's going to be, it's a made-for-TV sport. Hopefully everybody will enjoy it. All right, gang. Get your questions ready for the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball. We will be here tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Don't forget to watch everybody on the Max Wagers Network, which includes Sean Higgs at noon, Allie Burns, and her show from 1 to 2. We're hanging in here from 2 to 3. From 3 to 4 is, of course, Back to the Window with Scott and Scott. Then there's a little bit of brief respite. At 5, it's Tim, it's Nick, it's Lenny, and they're there for, of course, to get you ready for all the action for this evening. So all the gang is waiting for you. Scott and Scott's coming up next right here on the Max Wagers Network. For Chris King, I'm Jim Williams saying we will see you tomorrow right here on Just Parlays.